Lisa Carter sat in the cold metal chair and stared at the 12 alien faces around the table. Each one looked at her like she was a problem that needed fixing. The meeting room on Harmony Prime Station felt smaller with each passing hour. She had been listening to their demands for 6 hours now, and her patience was running out. The Altarian Chancellor leaned forward with his blue skin gleaming under the harsh lights. His voice was sharp and demanding. The Terran Federation will surrender control of all human colonies in the Outer Rim. This is not a request. This is what must happen. Lisa kept her face calm, but her hands were tight under the table. She had heard this speech before. It started 3 years ago with simple requests. Share some technology here. Help with a small problem there. But now they wanted everything. The Zephyrian elder spoke next. His ancient voice cracked as he pointed one long finger at Lisa. Humans have become too powerful too quickly. Your species threatens the balance we have kept for thousands of years. You will give us full access to your military technology. A laugh came from the Korthic representative. The warrior's scar showed clearly on his face as he smiled with too many teeth. Your ships are strong, but you are few. Submit to our guidance, and we will protect you from those who would destroy you. Lisa looked around the table at the other faces. The Nexus Consortium delegate was counting something on a small device, probably calculating how much money they could make from human trade routes. The other 8 species sat quietly, but their eyes showed the same greed. Let me make sure I understand, Lisa said slowly. You want us to give you our colonies. You want our technology. You want our military secrets. You want to control our research. What exactly do we get in return? The Altarian Chancellor waved, one hand like he was swatting a fly. You get to remain part of galactic civilization. You get our protection. You get access to our markets. Protection from what? Lisa asked. From us, the Korthic warrior said simply, and from others who see humans as a threat. The room went quiet. Lisa could hear the hum of the station's life support systems. She thought about the humans living on hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. Good people who had built homes and farms and factories. People who had shared their knowledge freely and helped solve problems for dozens of alien species. The Zephyrian elder stood up. His robes made a soft sound as he moved. We have been patient with humanity, but patience has limits. You will agree to our terms or face the consequences. What consequences? Lisa asked. Complete isolation, the Chancellor said. No trade. No travel between human and alien space. No access to galactic shipping routes. Your colonies will be cut off from each other. And if that is not enough, the Korthic added, we have other methods. Lisa felt something cold in her stomach. They were threatening war. These aliens who had benefited from human help for decades were now threatening to attack if humans did not become their servants. She thought about Captain Walsh defending the border stations, about Dr. Brooks working day and night to cure diseases that affected 6 different species, about the thousands of human engineers keeping alien colonies running with power and clean air. The Nexus Consortium delegate finally looked up from his device. The economic reality is simple. Humans cannot survive without galactic trade. Your technology is good, but you need our resources and our markets. Lisa stood up slowly. She reached for her datapad and closed it with a soft click. The sound seemed very loud in the quiet room. Ambassador Carter, the Chancellor said, you have not given us your answer. Lisa picked up her datapad and tucked it under her arm. She looked at each alien face around the table. Some looked angry. Some looked confused. The Korthic warrior looked amused, like this was all a game. The Terran Federation formally withdraws from all galactic treaties, Lisa said. Her voice was calm and clear. We withdraw from all trade agreements. We withdraw from all mutual defense pacts. This withdrawal is effective immediately." The Chancellor laughed. It was not a nice sound. "You cannot be serious. This is clearly a negotiation tactic." "We will be departing Harmony Prime within the hour," Lisa continued. "All human personnel will be withdrawn from joint facilities. Across the galaxy, all human ships will return to human space." "You are making a mistake," the Zephyrian elder said. His voice was sharp now. "You cannot survive without us." Lisa walked toward the door. She stopped and turned back to face the table. "No," she said quietly. "You need us. You are about to find out how much." The door slid shut behind her with a soft hiss. In the hallway, she could hear the aliens starting to argue among themselves. Their voices were getting louder and angrier. Lisa walked quickly toward the human section of the station. She had calls to make. President Morrison needed to know that the negotiations had failed. Captain Walsh needed to prepare the evacuation of border stations. Dr. Brooks needed to pack up her research and return home. Behind her, the arguing got louder. Someone was shouting about human arrogance. Someone else was demanding immediate military action. The Korthic warrior was laughing. Lisa did not look back. She had work to do. 2 days after the humans left Harmony Prime, the first problems started. Veltar was working in his office on Kepler 7 when the alarm bells began ringing. The Zephyrian overseer rushed to the main control room where his staff was staring at. "Red warning lights. What is wrong?" Veltar demanded. "The atmospheric processors are failing," his chief engineer reported. 3 of them stopped working in the last hour. The backup systems are not responding. Veltar felt his heart skip a beat. Kepler 7 was a mining world with no natural atmosphere. The processors created the air that kept 50,000 workers alive. Without them, everyone would die within days. "Contact the human technicians," Veltar ordered. "Sir," the engineer said quietly. "The humans left yesterday. All of them. They said they were returning to human space." Veltar stared at the red lights. The atmospheric processors were human-designed. The backup systems were human-built. The maintenance protocols were written in human languages that only human engineers understood. "How long do we have?" Veltar asked. "If we lose 2 more processors, maybe 6 days," the engineer replied. On the other side of the galaxy, Trade Director Grix was watching his carefully planned shipping empire fall apart. The Nexus Consortium had built their wealth on moving goods between thousands of worlds. But 60% of their ships used human-designed navigation systems. "Show me the status report," Grix demanded from his assistant. "Sir, we have lost contact with 47 cargo ships in the last day. The navigation computers are failing across the fleet. Without human maintenance crews to update the software, the systems are breaking down." Grix looked at the map showing shipping routes across the galaxy. Red lines marked routes that were now closed. Yellow lines showed routes with problems. Only a few green lines remained. "What about the hyperspace lanes?" Grix asked. "The human-established routes are still working, but we do not know how to maintain them. If something goes wrong, we cannot fix it," Grix calculated quickly in his head. The consortium would lose billions of credits every day this continued. Worse, planets that depended on food shipments would start running out of supplies within a week. In Korthic space, War Leader Thrak stood on the bridge of his flagship and tried to understand what his engineers were telling him. The mighty Korthic fleet had ruled this sector for centuries. Their ships were feared across the galaxy. "Explain this again," Thrak growled. "Sir, the shield generators are human-designed. The weapon targeting systems use human computers, without human technicians. To maintain them, the systems are slowly failing." Thrak looked out at his fleet. 100 warships that had seemed invincible yesterday now looked fragile. How many ships are affected? All of them, sir. We reverse engineered the technology, but we never learned how to build it ourselves. We always relied on human maintenance crews. And those crews? Gone, sir. They left with the human withdrawal. On Earth, President Jack Morrison sat in the Situation Room with his cabinet. The reports coming in from across the galaxy painted a clear picture. Galactic civilization was discovering how much they had depended on human knowledge and skill. How many of our people have we brought home? Morrison asked. Defense Secretary Carol Hayes checked her tablet. 90% are already back in. Human space. The rest will be home within 48 hours. We are shutting down joint facilities as we go. What about the aliens? How are they reacting? Panic, mostly. Intelligence Director Paul Wright reported. The Zephyrians are trying to reverse engineer atmospheric processors from old manuals. The Nexus Consortium is begging their member species to share navigation technology. The Korthik are threatening to take human ships by force. Morrison nodded grimly. And the colony worlds? Human colonies are fine, Secretary Hayes replied. We always maintained independent infrastructure. Our people are actually relieved not to be sharing their technology anymore. Dr. Helen Brooks sat in her new laboratory on Luna Base and watched. The messages flood in. Scientists from a dozen species were pleading for help. The joint research projects she had led were falling apart without human expertise. The faster-than-light communication system that connected the galaxy depended on quantum resonance theories that only human physicists fully understood. Medical treatments for 3 different plague outbreaks required human-developed drugs. Energy efficiency improvements that kept alien cities running relied on human engineering. Doctor, her assistant said, the Altarian Science Council is offering to pay any price for your return. Helen shook her head. Tell them the same thing I told the others. The Terran Federation has withdrawn from all agreements. I work for humanity now, not the galaxy. On the border worlds, the problems were getting worse. Automated defense platforms were shutting down one by one. Early warning systems went dark. Supply convoys stopped running as navigation failures made long-range travel too dangerous. Captain Steve Walsh had commanded the defense station at Kepler Pass for 3 years. Now he was overseeing its shutdown. The sophisticated sensor arrays and weapon systems would be destroyed rather than left for alien use. Sir, his communications officer called out. The Altarian fleet is requesting permission to take control of the station. Tell them no, Walsh replied, and remind them that this station is in human space. They have no authority here. They say they need the defenses to protect their shipping routes. Walsh laughed grimly. They should have thought of that before they tried to make us their servants. The station's main computer began the final shutdown sequence. Weapon systems powered down. Sensor arrays went dark. The hyperspace beacon that guided ships through the dangerous passage began its last transmission. Walsh and his crew boarded their transport ship and prepared to leave. Behind them, the station that had protected alien shipping for years became nothing more than empty metal and space dock back on Harmony Prime. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was not going well. Representatives from 12 species shouted at each other across the same table where they had made demands to the humans just days before. This is your fault, the Zephyrian elder accused the Altarian chancellor. Your greed pushed them too far. My greed? The chancellor shot back. You wanted their technology as much as anyone. The Korthik representative slammed his fist on the table. Enough talk. We should take their colonies by force. Show them the price of defying the council. With what ships? The Nexus Consortium. Delegate asked quietly. Half our fleets cannot even navigate properly without human systems. The arguing continued for hours, but no solutions emerged. The species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia were discovering that their power had quietly depended on a species they had considered inferior. And in human space, life went on normally. The withdrawal had caused some minor disruptions, but nothing serious. Human ships continued to trade between human worlds. Human colonies continued to grow and prosper. Human scientists continued their research. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson about respect and partnership. But it was, too, late for easy solutions. 6 weeks had passed since the humans walked away. Captain Steve Walsh stood on the bridge of his transport ship and watched the last human evacuation shuttle leave Gamma Station. The massive research facility had housed scientists from 8 different species working together on medical research. Now it was empty except for confused alien researchers who could not operate the human-built equipment. "All personnel accounted for, sir," his first officer reported. Dr. Kelly Price was the last to leave. Walsh nodded and gave the order to depart. Through the viewscreen, he could see alien ships arriving to take control of the station. They would find sophisticated laboratories and research equipment that they could not use without human expertise. On the planet below, Kepler-7 was dying. Veltar stood in the emergency command center and watched the final atmospheric processor shut down. The air was getting thin, and people were starting to panic. Evacuation ships from other Zephyrian worlds were coming, but there were not enough of them. "How many can we save?" Veltar asked his aide. "Maybe 20,000. The rest ... The aide did not finish the sentence. Veltar looked at the screen, showing the human-designed processors. Each one was a miracle of engineering that had kept this world alive. Now they were just expensive metal boxes that no one knew how to fix. "Send another message to human space," Veltar ordered. "Offer them anything they want. Mining rights, territory, money. Just ask them to help us." "Sir, we have sent 47 messages. They do not reply." Veltar closed his eyes. 50,000 people were going to die because the Galactic Council had been too proud and too greedy to treat humans as equals. In Altarian space, the military was facing its own crisis. Admiral Zitor commanded the sector fleet, but half his ships could not travel between star systems. The human logistics network had quietly become essential to long-range operations. "Report," Zitor demanded from his chief of staff. "Sir, we have lost contact with 15 patrol groups. Without the human communication relay network, we cannot coordinate fleet movements across more than 2 light years." "What about our supply lines?" "Collapsed, sir. The automated supply ships use human navigation systems. We have tried to reprogram them, but we do not understand the code." Zitor stared at the tactical display. His mighty fleet was stuck in orbit around the homeworld because they could not fuel or coordinate ships across interstellar distances. The Altarian Empire that had ruled dozens of systems was shrinking back to a single world. "Sir," his communications officer called out. "Emergency message from the border. Unknown ships are attacking our colonies." Trade Director Grix was dealing with his own disaster. The Nexus Consortium had built the largest commercial empire in galactic history. Now cargo ships were stranded across hundreds of systems because their navigation computers had failed. "Status report," Grix demanded. "Sir, we have lost 60% of our fleet to navigation failures. Food shipments to 37 worlds have stopped completely. Industrial worlds are running out of raw materials." Grix calculated the losses in his head. Trillions of credits. Millions of jobs. Entire planetary economies collapsing because they could not move goods between stars. "What about the translation protocols?" Grix asked. "Failing across the network, sir. The universal translator system was maintained by human programmers. Without updates, Different species are having trouble communicating with each other. On his desk, emergency messages piled up from dozens of member worlds. Food riots on agricultural planets that could not export their crops. Factory closures on industrial worlds that could not import materials. Panic buying and hoarding as trade. Routes shut down one by one. In the research labs of Gamma Station, Dr. Helen Brooks had left behind work that could have saved millions of lives. The bacterial plague affecting the Rigelian colonies had been almost cured. Her human-developed treatment protocols were 90% effective in early trials. Dr. Zilanara, the Rigelian researcher who had worked with Helen, stared at the complex equations on the laboratory screens. The mathematics were beyond anything she had learned in Rigelian schools. The chemical processes required precision that only human technology could achieve. "Can we continue the work?" asked her assistant. Dr. Zilanara shook her head. "We do not understand the theory behind it. Without Dr. Brooks and her team, this research is meaningless symbols." On Rigel Prime, people were dying at a rate of thousands per day. The plague that Helen Brooks had been close to stopping was spreading to other worlds. Panic was setting in as people realized that the human scientists who could save them were gone. President Morrison sat in his office on Earth and read the daily intelligence reports. The galaxy was falling apart faster than anyone had predicted. Human innovations had become so integrated into galactic civilization that removing them was like pulling out the foundation of a building. "How bad is it?" Morrison asked intelligence. "Director Wright, worse than we expected, sir. 3 Zephyrian colonies are being evacuated due to life support failures. The Altarian fleet is stuck in their home system. Nexus Consortium trade has dropped by 80%. Any word from the Galactic Council?" "They are still arguing among themselves, sir. Each species is blaming the others for the crisis. No one wants to admit they made a mistake." Morrison looked out his window at the city below. Life on Earth continued normally. Human ships moved between human worlds without problems. Human colonies were thriving without the burden of sharing their technology with ungrateful aliens. "What about our people? Any regrets about the withdrawal?" Wright smiled slightly. "Public approval is at 92%, sir. Most humans are happy to be free of alien demands. Our colonies report increased productivity and morale." Defense Secretary Hayes entered the office with urgent news. "Sir, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting unknown ships near the former border." Defense Network. Morrison frowned. "What kind of ships?" "Not any design we recognize, sir. They appeared near the Kepler Pass after Captain Walsh shut down the defense station. Our intelligence suggests they may be the species that the border network was designed to keep out." Wright checked his files quickly. The classified reports mentioned something called Void Stalkers, aggressive explorers from beyond the galactic rim. The border stations have been keeping them contained for 5 years. Morrison felt a chill. The galaxy was about to face a threat that they did not even know existed, and they would face it without the human defenses that had been protecting them. "How many of these Void Stalkers are we talking about?" Morrison asked. "Unknown, sir. All intelligence about them was classified at the highest levels. Only human border commanders knew the full scope of the threat. On the edge of known space, Commander Roy Phillips had commanded the most important defense station in the galaxy. For 5 years, his ships and weapons had fought a secret war against alien invaders that wanted to break into civilized space. The Galactic Council had never been told about the threat because they might have panicked. Now, Phillips was gone, and his station was dark. The Void Stalkers were finally free to enter the galaxy, and the species they would encounter had no idea what was coming. 3 months after humanity walked away, the galaxy learned what real terror looked like. The first attacks came without warning at the edge of Altarian space. Patrol ships simply vanished from their positions. Emergency beacons sent confused messages about unknown attackers before going silent forever. Admiral Ziegler stood in his command center and tried to make sense of the reports. His weakened fleet could barely patrol 2 systems, but now something was destroying his ships faster than he could deploy them. "What do we know about these attackers?" Ziegler demanded. "Very little, sir," his intelligence officer replied. "The ships are unlike anything in our databases. They use weapons we do not recognize and move in formations we have never seen. Have we made contact? They do not respond to any communication attempts, sir. They attack on sight and take no prisoners." Ziegler studied the tactical display. Red markers showed where Altarian ships had been destroyed. The pattern made no sense. The attackers were not trying to capture territory or resources. They seemed to be testing the defenses, learning how Altarian forces responded. "Sir," the communications officer called out. "Emergency transmission from the mining colony at Bella Prime. They are under attack." The transmission was full of static and panic. "Unknown ships in orbit. They are landing troops. Our defenses cannot stop them. Request immediate assistance." Ziegler looked at his fleet status. He had 12 operational ships. The attackers had already destroyed 15 ships in the past week. If he sent his remaining forces to help Bella Prime, he might lose them all. "Send what we can," he ordered, "and prepare a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we need help." On the Zephyrian homeworld, Elder Zarthan was dealing with his own crisis. 3 colony worlds had gone dark in the past month. The last messages spoke of strange ships that appeared without warning and overwhelmed all defenses. "How many refugees are we expecting?" Zarthan asked his aide. "Unknown, Elder. Most colonies cannot evacuate quickly enough. The attackers strike too fast." Zarthan felt the weight of his years pressing down on him. His people had ruled their sector for 2,000 years. They had seen wars and disasters before, but never anything like this. "What do our spies tell us about these invaders?" "They call themselves Void Stalkers, Elder. They come from beyond the galactic rim. Our intelligence suggests they have been trying to enter civilized space for years." "Trying? What stopped them before?" The aide hesitated. "The human border defense network, Elder. It appears they have been fighting a secret war against these creatures for 5 years. Zarthan felt his blood turn cold. The humans had been protecting the galaxy from an invasion that no one else even knew about. And the Galactic Council had driven them away in Nexus Consortium space. The attacks were different, but just as devastating. The Void Stalkers were not trying to capture territory. They were hunting. Commercial ships disappeared without trace. Space stations went silent. Entire trade routes became death traps. Trade Director Grix watched his empire crumble for the second time in 3 months. First, the loss of human technology had crippled his fleet. Now alien raiders were destroying what remained. "How many ships have we lost?" Grix asked his security chief. 47 in the past 2 weeks, sir. The attackers seem to be targeting our most valuable cargo runs. Are they stealing the cargo? No, sir. They destroy everything. Ships, cargo, crew. Nothing is left behind. Grix studied the shipping reports. The pattern was clear. The Void Stalkers were not interested in profit or territory. They were eliminating galactic civilization 1 ship at a time. On Earth, President Morrison convened an emergency meeting of his cabinet. The reports from alien space painted a grim picture. The threat that humanity had contained for 5 years was now running wild across the galaxy. "How bad is it?" Morrison asked. Intelligence Director Wright consulted his files. At least 200 ships destroyed. 15 colonies evacuated or destroyed. The Altarian fleet is down to single digits. The Zephyrians have lost 3 entire systems. What about the Korthik? They always claimed to be the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Their fleet was already crippled by maintenance failures, sir. The Void Stalkers destroyed half their remaining ships in a single battle last week. Defense Secretary Hayes looked troubled. Sir, we have a moral problem. Millions of innocent civilians are dying. Many of them had nothing to do with the councils. Demands. Morrison nodded grimly. What are our options? We could provide humanitarian assistance, Hayes suggested. Evacuation ships for refugees, medical aid for survivors. We would not need to engage the Void Stalkers directly. And militarily, Admiral. Linda Carter, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Sir, we know these enemies better than anyone. Commander Phillips sent detailed intelligence reports for 5 years. We know their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses. Could we stop them? Yes, sir. But it would require full deployment of the Deep Space Fleet, and we would need alien cooperation, supply bases, repair facilities, intelligence sharing, the same kind of partnership the Council rejected. Morrison thought about the human families living peaceful lives across the Federation. They had voted for withdrawal from galactic politics. They were tired of alien demands and ingratitude. But they were also decent people who did not want to watch millions die. On Harmony Prime, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. The same table where they had made demands to humanity 3 months ago now hosted desperate pleas for help. We must contact the humans immediately, the Altarian Chancellor said. His proud demeanor was gone, replaced by obvious fear. And say what? Asked the Korthik representative. That we were wrong? That we need their help after threatening them with war? Elder Zarthan spoke quietly. We say exactly that. We were wrong. We need their help. And we ask what price they want us to pay. The humans might refuse, warned the Nexus Consortium delegate. Why should they help us after how we treated them? Because they are better than us, Zarthan replied simply. We threatened them, and they walked away. We are dying, and they might still save us. The Council voted unanimously to request an emergency meeting with humanity. The message was sent through diplomatic channels that had been closed for months. It was a simple request that carried the weight of galactic survival. Ambassador Lisa Carter read the message in her office on Earth. The same aliens who had demanded her surrender 3 months ago were now begging for help. The irony was not lost on her. What do you think? Asked her assistant. Lisa looked out her window at the peaceful Earth sky. Somewhere beyond those stars, people were dying because their leaders had been too proud to treat humanity as equals. I think, Lisa said slowly, that we are about to find out what kind of people we really are. President Morrison authorized the meeting, not because the aliens deserved help, but because the innocent civilians caught in the war deserved a chance. To live-dot the message went out that night. Humanity would consider providing assistance against the Void Stalker threat. But this time, the negotiations would be very different. This time, the galaxy would listen when humans spoke. 6 months after humanity walked away from the negotiating table, Ambassador Lisa Carter returned to Harmony Prime. The station looked different now. Maintenance crews had been humans, and without them, the corridors were darker and the air recycling. Systems made strange noises. This time, President Jack Morrison came with her. The fact that the human leader had traveled personally to the station sent a clear message about how serious this meeting was. The alien representatives looked very different from the proud beings who had made demands 6 months ago. The Altarian Chancellor's blue skin looked pale and his hands shook slightly. Elder Zarthan moved slowly, as if carrying a great weight. The Korthik warrior had scars from recent battles, and his eyes showed something that had never been there before: fear. Thank you for coming, the Chancellor said quietly. We know we have no right to ask for your help." President Morrison sat down across from the aliens who had once threatened his people. "Tell me about the Void Stalkers," he said simply. Elder Zarthan spoke first. "They appeared 3 months ago at the edge of our space. We have lost 17 colonies and over 4 million people. Our fleets cannot stop them. They do not want territory or resources," added the Korthic representative. "They seem to want only destruction. They attack without warning and leave nothing behind." Morrison nodded. "We know. We have been fighting them for 5 years." The room went silent. The aliens stared at him in shock. "You knew about this threat?" The Chancellor asked. "Commander Phillips and his border defense network have been keeping them contained since they first tried to enter the galaxy," Morrison replied. "When we withdrew our forces, we left the border undefended." The weight of that statement settled over the room like a heavy blanket. The aliens realized that humanity had been protecting them from an invasion they never knew existed. "Why did you not tell us?" Zarthan asked. "Would you have listened?" Morrison asked back. "Or would you have demanded control of our defenses, like you demanded everything else?" No one answered. They all knew the truth. Morrison opened a datapad and placed it on the table. "These are our terms for providing assistance against the Void Stalkers." The aliens leaned forward eagerly. The terms were different from what they expected. "First, all previous galactic treaties are void. We start fresh with new agreements based on mutual respect and equality." The Chancellor nodded quickly. "Agreed. Second, human territory is sovereign. No alien authority has jurisdiction over human space or human citizens." "Agreed," said Zarthan. "Third, technology sharing is voluntary on both sides. No species can demand another's innovations." The Nexus Consortium delegate looked uncomfortable but nodded. "Agreed. Fourth, humanity gets permanent seats on all major galactic governing bodies with veto power over policies affecting human interests." The Korthek representative frowned. "You want equal representation? But there are 12 of us, and only one of you." Morrison smiled without humor. "There are 12 of you because we have been keeping you alive. The question is whether you want our help to stay alive." The vote was unanimous. "Finally," Morrison continued, "this is a partnership. We work together against the Void Stalkers. Human commanders will have authority over strategic decisions, but alien forces will fight alongside human forces as equals." Within hours, human ships began moving toward the battle zones. Captain Steve Walsh led the reactivation of the border defense network. The sophisticated sensors and weapons that had protected the galaxy for years came back online one by one. Admiral Linda Carter took command of the Joint Fleet operations. Her ships moved with alien vessels toward the Void Stalker positions. For the first time, human and alien crews worked together as true partners instead of masters and servants. Dr. Helen Brooks returned to her research, but now as director of a collaborative effort where human knowledge was valued instead of stolen. Her labs began developing new weapons and defenses specifically designed to fight the Void Stalkers. The first joint battle came at the Rigel system, where Void Stalker ships were besieging the last defended planet. Human tactical planning, combined with alien firepower, proved devastating. The attackers found themselves facing coordinated strikes that exploited weaknesses only humanity knew about. "Target their command ship," Admiral Carter ordered over the Fleet Communication System. Human intelligence indicates they use centralized control. Altarian heavy cruisers hammered the Void Stalker flagship, while human fighters protected them from enemy interceptors. Zephyrian support ships provided power and ammunition. Korthic assault troops prepared to board disabled enemy vessels. The battle was won in 6 hours. It was the first major defeat the Void Stalkers had suffered since entering the Galaxy. the pattern repeated across dozens of systems. Human knowledge and alien courage combined to push back the invasion. Trade routes reopened under joint protection. Colonies were reclaimed and rebuilt. The refugee crisis slowly ended as people returned to their homes. But the most important change was in how the species worked together. The old system of demands and threats was replaced by negotiation and respect. When the Zephyrians needed help with atmospheric processors, they offered fair payment for human expertise. When humans needed rare minerals for their technology, aliens provided them in exchange for defensive assistance. Dr. Kelly Price returned to her plague research, but now as part of a team where every species contributed equally. The bacterial disease that had been spreading across alien colonies was finally cured using combined human theory and alien resources. 6 months after the new partnership began, Ambassador Carter stood in the same meeting room where humanity had walked away. This time, the discussion was about expanding galactic civilization beyond its previous borders. The Void Stalkers came from somewhere, Carter said. Beyond the galactic rim, there might be other species, some hostile, some peaceful. We should explore those regions together. Elder Zarthan nodded. A joint exploration mission. Human navigation and defense. Alien resources and personnel. The first colony ships could launch within a year, suggested the Nexus Consortium delegate. Human families and alien families working together to build new worlds. President Morrison approved the plan from Earth. The first joint colony was established in former Void Stalker territory, representing the first expansion of galactic civilization beyond its previous limits. Human children played alongside alien. Children in schools that taught both human and alien sciences dot the galaxy had learned a hard lesson about cooperation and respect. The species that had once ruled through fear and demands now understood that true strength came from working together as equals. Ambassador, Carter's final report to Earth was simple. The galaxy no longer shudders when humans speak. Instead, it listens. And together, we are stronger than any of us could be alone. The stars that had once seemed cold and hostile now felt full of possibility. Humanity had proven they could survive and thrive alone, but they chose to build a future with their alien neighbors. Not as masters or servants, but as partners exploring the infinite together. The Void Stalkers had been defeated. The galaxy was at peace. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, new worlds waited to be discovered by crews, where human and alien hands worked side by side at the same controls. Age of Galactic Partnership had begun.